Did you know that extended school year is not in the federal law IDEA? Stay tuned because we're going to be talking about this. And also, did you know there's no federal regulations or rules that tell states what they need to use for eligibility, you know, qualifications for a student to be given ESY? Or did you know, this one you might know, that ESY is not just for the summer break of school. So if you want to delve into these a little bit more deeply, plus look at some myths about ESY, stay tuned because that's what we are talking about today. So if you are new to our show, I am Charmaine Tanner, and I welcome you here because twice a month we are here live to talk about subjects that are pertinent to your advocacy for your child. This is February. Sometimes we don't talk about ESY and IEP meetings until March or April. But guess what? I want you to be prepared for that ESY discussion that's going to be coming up at your child's IEP meeting. So let us know you're here. Say hi. This is the time that you can ask your questions, and we'll be talking about extended school year today. So let's look at these shocking truths that ESY is not in the statute, the law of IDEA. However, it's in the regulations, and I'm going to show you where you can find it because you want to make sure that you know what the language says. So there is a great website you can go to. And let me share my screen. I'm going to share it full screen and hide that. So this is, and I'll show you how to get here in a minute, but this is the regulation that deals with extended school year. Now this is federal regulation. Your state may give you additional rights that aren't listed here. But let's look at what it says. So here's the section 300-106. What I love is this statement right here. I don't think it will let me highlight, will it? Yes. That the public agency, which is your school district, may not unilaterally limit the type, amount, or duration of those services. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later. So come to find, and there's different places, but I really encourage you to be able to know what the regulations actually say. So let me show you here how you can get here. So if you go to idea.ed.gov, voila, you can find lots of things. You can find the statute and regulations. You can find reports. I wonder if there's anything under grants now. But I usually go under the law and policy, and you can click on statute regulations. You can choose to look at the statute or the regulations. We're going to look at the regulations. And then the search bar, you can put ESY. And if you want just the regulations, you can get those to come up. So that's usually something I cover in my membership group, our Connecting for Change group. But I also wanted to show you today because it's something that you can use for lots of things. So we know that it's not in the law, it's only in the regulations. But you know, the other thing about the regulations is it doesn't talk about what factors a state has to use to decide if your child's eligible or not. So if you look back here at the regulations, there's, you have to make sure they're available to be provided, so your child's provided FAPE. You can't limit them to a particular category. Here's a definition, meets the standards of the SEA. So when you see this, it's referring to the state education agency. So here again, not only do you need to know your federal regulations about ESY, but you really have to dive into your state regulations. And we'll be talking about some general regulations in a minute that most states use. However, you really, you need to, or have an advocate or have a friend look up your state requirements about ESY before you walk into that meeting. Now, the other kind of shocking truth about ESY is it's not just about a summer break, and if your child needs extended school year during a summer break. And different schools now have different calendars, right? We have some year-round schools. We have some schools that take a fall break, a winter break, a spring break. So look at times when there is a larger break, but also there have been some cases where extended school year means a longer school day. I don't know if your kid wants to go to school longer, but so there's a variety of ways. I think typically most of us look at extended school year applies to that long summer break. However, look at your school calendar and see. And we'll also be talking about the data that the school needs to be collecting. So let us know where you are watching from. We're going to go into some myths about ESY. And I've been to IEP meetings where they will say, oh, your student, they're not that disabled. They don't really need ESY. And that's kind of the end of the discussion. Well, that could be the beginning of the discussion because you would need to talk about that more. There is not one set disability category that automatically gets ESY. There's not one set of a disability category that automatically is not eligible for ESY services. So those are some things that you need to be thinking about before you go to that meeting when ESY is going to be talked about. The other myth is that ESY can be this one size fits all, but the reality is it kind of fits none. I think the most popular thing that I hear when I go to IEP meetings with families as an advocate is, oh, ESY, yes. We wanted to tell you about ESY. We already have the dates. So we know what ESY is going to be from June 7th through July 29th. We have July 4th off. And it's Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 11:30. We do have transportation. All the kids will be at Monroe Elementary, and there'll probably be different teachers and different pairs. But yeah, that's what we have set up this year. We're so excited about ESY. And then it's like, what? The school team is not supposed to define what ESY looks like. They don't have one program that everybody has to fit into. ESY is there to protect your child and to make sure they're provided a free, appropriate public education. So for some kids, going to ESY services from June 7th to July 29th, that might not be appropriate for your child. Maybe your child needs longer spans across the summer and maybe shorter amounts of times or less days or maybe more days. So all of that you have learned when you advocate for your child to talk about making sure that the program is individualized, those same strategies, advocacy strategies, you need to use when you're advocating for ESY for your child. Now, the other common thing that I hear, which is, can be, I don't know, both good aspects and concerns for me, is when parents say, no, we've tried ESY in the past. It didn't work. No, my kid doesn't get anything out of going to ESY. And that is sad because it's like, to me, where's my red flag? I don't know where my red flag is. A huge red flag, right? Because we want to make sure that it's developed, the services are developed around what your child's needs are, around which goals your child's going to be working on during extended school year. And yeah, so saying this is our one program at Monroe Elementary is not going to cut it. I remember when I was an advocate and one of the students and their family that I was working for, one of the goals that he was going to be working on over the summer was communication with class, with peers, kids around his age, communication, with adults. So we went to the IEP meeting and we were thinking, let's think outside of the box here, because probably going to Monroe Elementary is not going to actually help this child with their communication skills when he would be in a classroom, basically segregated classroom, right? So that's not going to help him with communication skills with kids his own age that don't have disabilities. So we came up with this plan that I just thought was so wonderful. And so we looked at the local YMCA and what kind of summer programs that they were offering. And they had some wonderful, excellent classes that tapped into his interests, that would be topics that he would love to talk about. And that would be perfect for him. And so instead of taking the one offer of Monroe Elementary, the parents and I said, what about the local Y and what we have over here offering for programs? And then what we did, because we wanted him to have some adult, not supervision, but, just support when he needed it. We also did request a para that would go to the Y classes with him and provide additional support. So, and we were able to persuade the district to agree to that. Now, that is not necessarily going to be easy for you to advocate for. And again, you want to go back. I don't think I have Idaho's ESY regulations pulled up, but in Idaho, there's some specific language for ESY that says no recreational summer programs. Those don't count for ESY. And I think we need to challenge that if that's what your state is saying. So You know, the lesson, the moral of the story is know the federal regulations, know your state regulations, and be familiar with them, and then ask somebody to go with you at that IEP meeting when you're going to be talking about ESY, and make sure you have some additional support, because you will get pushback, as you know, when you ask for something that the district typically does not give families, right? So make sure you're doing that. Let's see. Um, and this is leads up to another myth about ESY, is that LRE doesn't apply to ESY. Now, this is a controversial issue. We have had one case that I know, and I haven't really looked in the other circuits, but there was a Second Circuit Court decision. And I don't know if I don't think I have the decision pulled up, but I can show you um, a map of, so this is more than we usually get into today. I usually do this kind of stuff with our Connecting for Change group, but I really want you to understand all this. So the Second Circuit is over here, and they had this wonderful decision about LRE does apply to ESY. Now, if you don't live in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, that Second Circuit Court decision doesn't apply to you. However, you can still, I still like to use as justification why we want to make sure LRE also applies during summer. Um, let's see, let's stop sharing. And, to me, it's like if your child has been having instruction in the general ed classroom, has been doing, activities and learning in the general ed classroom, and then when it comes to ESY, they're like, well, sorry, we have this class. Well, we have two classes at Monroe Elementary, from kindergarten to third grade, from fourth grade to sixth grade, your child will be there. It's like, no, that's not the least restrictive environment. So next week in our Connecting for Change group, I'm going to be helping our members there look at, so how could you actually plan your case, and how can you have arguments? How can you have questions or statements ready for the IEP meeting when you talk about ESY, so you can make your case for LRE? I think that's probably the one area that I don't hear many other people talking about, but I think it's like critically important, right? And that's where looking outside of the box helps you. I've had some families, if the school district has regular summer school, that their child is included in that summer school class. And parents will say, no, no. And I get it. ESY is different than summer school. However, we're not just like dumping your kid in the summer school class. We would look at, related services provided for your child also, push in services. So it's not just dumping them in the summer school program. So there's ways, and it depends on your child. It depends on what your child's strengths are, what they're interested in, what would motivate them. And it also depends on what the needs are, because you're going to be looking through that IEP and deciding where do we, what goals are we seeing that we really need to make sure that the student has, especially designed instruction for over the summer or over fall break, or Christmas break, because we know, right, it doesn't just happen during the summer. So welcome to those that are just joining us, or if you're watching on the replay, say hi, drop your question, give us an example maybe of what ESY has been for your child and how did that work out for them. Because we want to be able to feel confident when we're talking about ESY in an IEP meeting, and we want to make sure that we dispel those common myths that are out there. So I'm going to get a drink while you type in your questions. So what do you think? What do you think? Today, we've talked more about kind of the what of ESY, the why it's important for your child to be able to access it. However, the important thing is it does have to be individualized, right? And so we will have another live show in a few weeks about some more aspects of extended school year. And if you're in our Connecting for Change group, I see some of those members here. Next week, we'll be doing a drill down to like, how do you advocate for appropriate ESY services that are in the least restrictive environment and that actually support your child. So until a couple of weeks from now, when I see you again, keep on keeping on with your advocacy, because the advocacy that you're doing for your child actually can impact other families and their children too. So I am here to support you because I want your child to be safe, happy, and learning besides their classmates in general education classes. So I am Charmaine Tanner. Take care, and we will be back.